Magical girls, a genre phenomenon which can be summarized as girls who have magic and use it to save the day, often from an assortment of demons, devils, ghosts, and other generally evil people. Today we're not talking about regular magical girls though, we're talking about Puella, Magi, Madoka Magica, yeah, the one where everyone suffers and is sad. More accurately, we're talking about the fan-made TTRPG made by one Tara Ray, last updated back in 2016. The Madoka TTRPG uses a pseudo-step die system, with each die being tied to an attribute rating. For example, 4 is tied to a D8. Most standard checks would be a attribute die plus your attribute rating, leading to an exponential growth in power. In total, there are 6 attributes: strength, accuracy, magic, heart, mind, and charisma, which almost translate directly one-to-one with the standard 6. Making a character, however, is actually kind of odd. One of the key factors in the Madoka-verse is that your wish will always be corrupted in some way, but any wish can apply to anything. Not in this one, though. Your wish grants you a passive ability as well as determining what kind of magic and weapons you'll be able to take initially. For example, wishing for material wealth makes you limited to axes, greatsword, and handguns, with only earth, fire, and darkness and ribbon magic available to you initially. These wishes are not, however, built equally, and to optimize, you'll want to take the right wish, which kind of translates to a class in a certain way. From there, you'll roll to determine your quirk, which can be anything from manifesting spells cheaper, increasing attributes, having more abilities, or increasing your corruption rate. And no, these are also not built equally. After choosing your basic spell from the many categories of spells, you're finally ready to choose your abilities, which can be anything from being a bully to being a gamer or gaining actual useful information. Then you can spend your soul points, which are pretty much like your XP in a way. You'll only start with 5 of these, and it also costs 2 to increase any of your attributes, which all begin at 3, suggesting none of these increased by quirks to actually 4. But you'll need also to spend these on spells and new abilities, and after all that's done, calculating your HP and MP, you'll have a total of around 30 to 40 for both of them, like everybody else. Making a character can be a bit time consuming, as you have to navigate all 142 pages of the book between 3 different sections to actually get everything. Combat is the main centerpiece of the game though, as you fight witches and wraiths in a deadly dance of survival, and deadly it is! How witches are easily able to murk an unprepared Maguka into the goddamn stratosphere. Melee attacks work on an exchange system where your weapon die plus strength opposing the enemies. Whoever wins the clash. However, if your rolls are within 5 of each other, such as 12 versus 8, you instead are going to initiate a clash. You're going to roll again, lowering that clash threshold by 1. So for example, the first round of melee is 12 versus 8, second is 10 versus 7, and the third is 12 versus 8. That third round would be a successful hit against your opponent. This also determines your knockback, which is 5 times your clash victory margin, so that last hit would send our Maguka only hurtling back 5 feet. Criticals are achieved by rolling over 10 for the clash, such as rolling 2 versus 12, and doubling all the damage you actually do. What about ranged weapons, however? Well, fun fact, they are completely different, and they have a set hit threshold and critical value, but you also have to burn a minor action every round to resummon your ranged weapons by keeping it lore accurate. And don't forget, spells are almost entirely combat related, and actually possess a spell list with dedicated spells per list, which seems to clash with Madoka's more open magic system, between the suffering of course. Using magic as the crits result in actually much bigger effects, but spends more MP, which is also your secondary health pool. And everything I just said only sort of applies to actual honest to god witch combat, which plays very differently due to witches being titanic creatures of unlife, relying more on a series of bouts to cripple their options before going into the kill, which higher tier witches may have an absurd amount of fucking health to bring down naturally due to having HP pools sometimes in the hundreds. Why do we hunt witches though? Well, to get grief seeds. Grief seeds grant us XP, which allows you to level up, which grants you more soul points to actually increase your abilities in the most asinine, tacked on leveling system I've actually ever seen. They also allow you to vent your corruption, which is gained by doing things and just being a Maguka. And corruption is very important, as it allows you to not only push your abilities, it allows you to become stronger, it also allows you to restore your magic pool, which means that grief seeds allow you to restore your mana directly and indirectly, which normally you wouldn't be able to. And that's it really. I would say the nicest way possible is that Madoka TTRPG suffers from being very thematic, unfortunately clunky, as it struggles to find its own footing in what it's trying to do. I primarily attribute this this to the boss baby phenomenon. I've talked about this before, but the boss baby phenomenon is effectively when a person hasn't experienced anything else, they will immediately associate it with what they have, even if it's to the product's detriment. The writer cites D&D, Pathfinder, Dark Heresy, and Savage Worlds as immediate inspirations, which while good, suddenly put some things into context, as all the little parts of this game are actually drawn from those ideas, most notably the reliance on a grid, rather than committing to its own unified design theory by just becoming a Madoka game. The game is very thematic, and that's what really holds it up, but it's a clunky system, and unfortunate reliance on structure rather than that openness really cripples this game right outside the starting gate. My name is Notepad, and this was Puella, Magi, Madoka Magica, the fan TTRPG. If you like what I do here, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Many thanks to the Incubator Association for funding my grief seed addiction. Thank you, and goodbye.